Marvel Rivals at its thinnest layer looks like a shooting game. However, the higher and higher you climb, especially as a tank, decision-making skills are the things that's going to carry your match. Today, our main focus is going to be on decision-making and how high-ranked players abuse it to get more wins. As you climb higher and higher, especially as a tank, decision-making starts to be more and more of what you need to do in order to impact your matches. By the end of this video, if you're still struggling with decision-making, or anything else for that matter, check out my pinned comment down below. You can get your own personal replay review, and if you would like more of a hands-on approach, we can do a one-on-one coaching session, link in the description below. So in this replay, you guys can tell that we're playing Magneto. One of the core fundamental concepts to Magneto is spacing. Now we'll talk more about that once we get into it, but just keep in mind that's what you want to learn as Magneto if you ever want to become a Magneto player. Also, side note, I want to try something a little bit different with the structure of this. If you guys follow my other breakdowns, my other replay reviews, you guys will notice a change. And just let me know in the comments if you prefer this way and it's a little bit better or not. So going into this, you're trying to keep your spacing as we talked about before, and this is good. Now you also want to be sure to show your face as much as possible. You see how you're at full HP? We want to show our face as much as possible if we are at full HP. You don't want to be in cover for no reason. The most of the time you go into cover is because you want to reload, or you're looking to just reposition a little bit. Now this key point is really important because you gave up space to turn around and essentially help your team. So let's go back here, and you'll notice that when Iron Fist came around here, not there. Okay, that wasn't even Iron Fist. What were you looking at? It must have been the Star-Lord. But as he came in, you see how much space you gave up by walking backwards. You also see how low you got. Like, this whole thing went horribly because of the fact that you turned around and started walking back. In the situation when you are playing a tank, it doesn't matter which one, you want to try to identify if you can hold the line or not. If we look at this and you're like, well, Poppin, I can't hold this line, brother. I have to go back. That's fine, but you want to make sure that you are looking forward while backing up. The main goal of a lot of tanks is to make sure that everything remains in front of you. Not many tanks or characters like to have themselves surrounded by a whole bunch of things. So if you truly need to give up that space, you need to walk back. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where you're giving up space and your whole entire team crumples, and you're going to be in a situation where everybody gets a wipe. You do not want that. You could tell that we gave up a lot of space, but luckily our team was able to force them out. Also, if you notice, the characters ended up running back to their team. That tends to happen quite a bit if you're dealing with dive characters like Magic, Iron Fist, Captain America, Hulk, things like that. You are going to notice that they're going to go in and then run away. So this means you don't have to give up too much space. So this is really good. We're trying to hold this space, kind of contest. We have our support ulting first, which I don't like seeing. I hate when my supports ult first, but it is what it is. You can't really do anything about it. Continuing to hold, which is good. You're backing them off, cool, and you go back and you try to hold this position once again. This is great. Now we're in a position where they need to retake this cart. And if you notice that whenever you win a team fight, even if the cart's not there, you want to try to reclaim the space and have them retake it once again. This is what you do every single time on any map that you play on. Whenever they push forward and you win, you need to go back and contest. If it took them about 30 seconds to take this point and push the cart here, well, when you retake it, you're going to end up in a great situation where it's going to take 30 seconds to do it again. And if you wipe them again, then it's another 30 seconds. You see what I mean? So every single time that you do end up winning a team fight, you want to try to retake the spots that was hard for them to take. So they have to do it over and over again, wasting more and more time. So as I said before, we're still contesting it. Now, you notice that we're not in the same place that we were when we previously defended, right? We're all in their face. There's no cover. This is what you don't want to do because your team's going to end up getting rolled. There is no cover for you guys to be here, and ultimately, you guys are going to end up getting stomped. You want to go back to where you were originally holding because they don't have a cart for defense, right? So they're in the open, not you. Right now, you're in the open, and we're probably going to see your team get wiped. Let's continue to see what happens. As we talked about before, that space is very important. As they approach you, especially if it's multiple players, you do have to back up. You have to respect that space. Magneto is a very poke-heavy base tank, which means that everything that he does needs to be at a distance. He doesn't want it to be up close. So we end up getting pushed back because all these ults, you know, we already knew this was going to happen. We're in a really bad position. All they had to do was ult, and we don't really have anywhere else to go because we weren't fortified, we weren't in the right spot, and that tends to happen quite a bit. Do not get over eager when you're playing defense. When you win that team fight, when you have that wipe, you need to make sure you're going right back to the same spot you defended in the first place, so they have to push through the same spot again. If you end up going a little bit too far, we call this overextending. All they have to do, as you just seen, is Luna can ult and run you guys down because you have nowhere to go, right? Same thing with Star-Lord. Pretty much almost every character can run you down when they start ulting if you're out of position. Your Cloak and Dagger then decides to ult here, and we're chasing people off. You're chasing the healers off. You have to ask yourself, was this the correct decision in the first place? What do we get off of chasing the healers here? We realize that Luna Snow already ulted last fight, right? And we know that the healers aren't going to sit inside of this smoke taking damage. So this means that although you're trying to zone them away from healing, in this particular moment, that should not be your target priority. Your target priority should be the tanks and or the DPS that's in your backline. Pushing them back, although it does prevent healing to an extent, because I mean their range is still pretty long. It also puts you out of position. This is why you ended up taking the KO. So if we would have just hung back and fought this here, look how low they are. You could have easily defended that with them. So coming back to the team fight, as I said before, you want to try your best not to overextend. That's 2 times during this match we overextended. And although the second time didn't cost our team the fight, the second time did cost us the fight. We ended up being KO'd for it. If you continue to do this game after game, it's going to stack up. And as I said before, as you climb higher and higher, your decision-making skills needs to be a lot better when you're playing tanks. The higher you get, the less the tank can play. You know, you're more relying on your DPS or your support to give you an opening, and then you capitalize on it. But you're not going to be able to capitalize on it if you KO. That's why it's important to have that decision-making down packed. So we're looking to defense. Again, we're going after the healers, which is fine. You can't do anything to Luna and her ult anyway, so you're focusing the back line. As much as we are flipping our camera, just back up so they remain in front of you. We talked about that already. I'm not going to be able to do much with the Star-Lord here, so we should have just backed up, let them take the point. When you identify that the fight is over, that is when you are going to need to just back up so you don't get KO'd. In this situation, when you do end up getting KO'd, you're going to be giving up way more space than you would have given up if you just would have backed off the point. Now, you could be like, well, Poppin, how do I know when the fight's lost? Well, we already know that our support got KO'd and the other support didn't have their ultimate. Star-Lord just ult, you didn't have ultimate. Based off the positioning of your team, you weren't going to win that fight, right? So just back up, go through the little tunnel here, and take yourself, or not tunnel, but corridor, and then take yourself back around and look for the next defensive position. You always want to do that when you notice the team fights are being lost. So although the cart isn't pushed up too far, we did lose a lot of space here when we lost a lot of space here, basically, because we ended up getting KO'd. The team took all of it, and we have to try to take it back. Even though the cart's not there, they were able to move up further and further. Now, when we ask ourselves, why do we use our abilities? This is something called ability management. Why do we use our shield? Why do we use our curtain? Why do we use our mag cannon? Why do we use our ultimate? Again, decision-making skills are necessary. His ultimate has a lot of uses. It's not just to take out the Punisher or to take out healers. You can use it when maybe your team is caught out and stunned and they're about to shoot them. You can use it to take up all the ammo. You can use it to prevent healing from characters like Cloak and Dagger and Luna Snow and stuff like that. So you have a lot of ways to use it. As far as your barrier goes and your curtain goes, again, you have way better ways to use it. I can tell right now that we're just spamming a lot of the abilities, and that's okay for some characters, although you want to do your best to hold it for all characters. It's more important that you hold it for Meg, because his abilities are very impactful. When you have really impactful abilities, they tend to have longer cooldowns. Longer cooldowns means if you waste them, you don't have it back for any other situation. As an example here, we know that they have a Star-Lord. If we can use our ultimate to take the Star-Lord's ultimate, that's a great use of our ult. Now we have to ask ourselves before we do that, do my supports ult when the Star-Lord ults? If the answer is yes, then you can probably use your ult in another different way. However, if the answer is no, you're going to need to use your ult to counter Star-Lord. So we're doing our best to hold space. We are trying to use that left side as cover. We talked about this before. Whenever you can make the enemy team turn their camera, you want them to do that. So instead of being on the left side, we should really be positioning ourselves on the right side. If we position ourselves on the right side, the team has to go both ways, and we're able to divert their attention. When playing Mag, one of the main things you want to think about is staying alive the longest. He's like one of the only characters in the game, in my opinion. Like, you don't want to KO on any character, but Magneto is one of the only characters, in my opinion, that staying alive is actually how you fundamentally play the character. We talked about spacing. We talked about keeping them at a distance as a poke tank. Well, if your mindset is on, I need to stay alive, that is a good enough mindset to tell you I need to space. You know what I mean? So it indirectly teaches you to do the correct thing. If we were thinking about this here before we got KO'd, I need to, be in a safe position because I don't want to KO. Where will we be standing? You know what I mean? And you use that as a way to assess where you should space. You obviously don't want to KO, but is this a good spot to stand in if we don't want to KO? See what I mean? He's like one of the only characters that indirectly helps you work on another fundamental, which is that spacing that we talked about. Spacing, if we think about it this way, is a buffer. So you have a buffer between you and another character. We're going to say, well, that's my max range. That's my max poke range. Now, it might not be. It's kind of close, but I don't think that's the max range. But in this example, if I know that my max range is here, right, then I want the character to be in this zone. This means whenever I back up, it's because the character is starting to pass the zone that I want that character in. Does that make sense? So if we were to move this forward, right, and let's say this is our zone, and this is, like, that's our sweet spot. So let's make this color. This is our sweet spot. Let's try to imagine. You see how you're able to move forward? Well, you're able to move forward because the sweet spot adjusts. But look at over there, right? So if we flip it this way, she's now close to your sweet spot. As she moves forward, you need to back up. Because technically speaking, nobody's in that sweet spot, you can play more up. But we're starting to retreat. We're starting to use our curtain. Why? You could just stand here. Up here. And you can do what you just did just in the safety of, cover. As long as you keep them in that sweet spot, that's really what you're looking for. So here, is he in the sweet spot? No, he's past the sweet spot. So this is where we should be backing up. We have to maintain that space on every character. It does not matter which one it is. If they get too close, you need to back up. And so this is what I was referring to when I was saying spacing with Magneto is one of the core fundamentals of the game. You need to really understand this concept in order to be successful. The closer you get, the more damage you take, and the more vulnerable you become, especially because you are a slow character. So now we're playing on offense, and we decided to swap to Groot. Personally, I don't really care too much about swaps. People are like, Poppin', should I swap? Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm like, just play whatever you want to play if you have a good time. Yeah, some characters are countered more than others, but just learn the matchups and learn to play into it. You can play whatever you want, though. Swapping should really just be a thing at the top of the ladder, and even then, some players still don't swap that often, especially because they play meta a lot more. So we're playing Groot. We're trying to get we're trying to push forward. Really, one of the main aspects of Groot is being able to cut off the back line. So whenever you are trying to play, you want to cut off the back line. You kind of see how you're overextending again. It doesn't matter what character you play. You can see how bad habits stem to other characters. This is why when I do coaching, I talk a lot about the habits. They're like, well, this might just be this moment. But if you start to see it happen periodically throughout the game, you could tell that's a habit that the player has. This is why coaching is very important, or replay reviews are very important, because you can get down to what's causing this to happen. Every character has a way that they need the space to make them more effective, and you can tell that overextending is something that you typically do a lot. So if we can just minimize how much we overextend and keep that sweet spot spacing, it doesn't matter if it's on Mag or Groot. Again, every character has their own little version. We'll be good to go. Now, as I said before, you want to try to be in a different spot, in a different location than your team, so that way they have to look in multiple directions. Also, we talked about spacing once again. You see how close they are. It's okay to back up because you can always retake that area, but you can't retake if you are KO'd. So you need to back up. If it's a Luna Snow, if it's a Cloak and Dagger, if it's any of these characters that ult, right? And it creates the space, because that's what their ults are for. Their ults are there to create space. DPS do the same thing. Like almost every character in this game, when they ult, they are making space somehow. You need to respect that as a character like Magneto, because he's so slow, and give up that space. You can take it back later, but you can't take it back if you are KO'd. So here you notice that their backline's getting dove, which is fine. You notice that the Cloak and Dagger KO'd. We shouldn't really be focusing on Iron Fist at that point, because he's not KOing anyway, right? So it's whatever. You can leave it then. You see how much we're playing in this little funnel here? We should be playing the entire map. We're just sitting in one little section, just throwing things at each other. You want to play the entire map. You want to try to do your best to get to different spots that are advantageous. Just funneling up over and over and over and over is something that you typically see until like mid-eternity. So probably about, if the point gain is like 500, right? To be top 500, you need 500 points. Mid-eternity is about 300. So you don't really see people adjusting their gameplay until about eternity. But it's okay. Play the entire map. You don't need the funnel. You can do a lot from different spots without being too close. And again, that's one of our main issues. We're overextending. If people dive, we're turning around, giving up space for free. These are a lot of these habits that we're just doing over and over and over again. And what this does is it leads to this kind of, I don't really want to call it a paradox, but it can kind of be seen as it. If you want to climb, but your climb is based off how well the enemy team reacts to you, you're probably not going to climb, right? You're going to be in that situation where you win some games because their team sucks, but then when they're good, you lose, and it's vice versa. This is actually something you were talking about in one of your comments, where you were like, well, I feel like, you know, sometimes the enemy team is miles ahead of my team. As the tank, your decision-making impacts everybody in the match, not just your team, but the enemy team. So if you're constantly making poor decisions and the enemy team can react to those poor decisions, you're going to find yourself losing a lot more fights and losing a lot more games. You want to make it so that even at tough times during your match, your decisions become very difficult to deal with, and that makes the enemy team crumble. If you can consistently do that, you're going to consistently see that your team is able to capitalize on that opportunity that you gave them. And again, the decision making comes down from using your abilities properly, managing your spacing, because whatever you take, your team wants to play in. You see how you're doing it again? We're not respecting the space. Whatever space that you take as a character, we're going to actually look at this. I explained this a lot in another video and in a coaching session, but as a character that is a tank, more or less, you have a hidden line around you, right? So you have a bubble around you that is your space. Usually when you move forward and anybody is in that bubble, typically speaking, they will back out. The bubble will force them backwards. Most of the time, people don't really care too much about Magneto, let me be honest, because your bubble is what we talked about before, which is your spacing. That sweet spot is considered your character bubble. Each tank has a different way that has a bubble. As an example, Hulk's bubble is very standard. If the dude jumps in and you're in that bubble, you're going to run away from him. He creates space by moving his bubble around. With Magneto, your space is created by moving your sweet spot around. As a tank in general, the way that you take space is by moving forward and using that sweet spot. Anyone behind you is able to play in that space. If you are a tank that makes the poor decision to create space and move forward, well, that line then moves up. But if it's not safe to do so, you then have your team in a dangerous space that they wouldn't have taken if you wouldn't have given it to them. You see how important your decision making needs to be in order to play tank effectively? So if we move this forward, right, a little bit forward to where you were getting KO'd, where's the cart? Oh, we're way too back. Okay, bro, I was like, what? Where's the cart at? Okay, go back a little bit. Going forward, you see how as a tank you're not giving them any space. The Thors kind of, but they're just being over eager. And this happens. This is something you can't control. This is just how games work. It's randomized. People just do random stuff from time to time. But the time that you have them behind your line that we talked about, that's the decision that you can create. So, yes, Squirrel Girl's out of position. Who cares? But as you notice here, look at the space that you say they can play in. Anything from here, you're saying, oh, this is safe, guys. Everything in this area is safe. Everything back there is safe. You guys can do that. But if we play the clip out, how safe is it really? So let's play it out. You have Iron Fist behind you. You have their team pushing you forward. Is it really safe for your entire team, including you? Because that space line is also yours. You have to keep them in the sweet spot, right? That's this is the space for your team, but the sweet spot we talked about is the space for your character. So this is that sweet spot. You're being shoved in, which means they're out of that sweet spot and able to make enable. I get tongue twisted sometimes. For you to maintain this space, your sweet spot, you would need to back up. If you back up, the line then becomes back here, which means that your team would then be playing back there, and this is a lot safer for your team and including yourself. When you make poor decisions and it gets jumbled, whether it's bad for your team but safe for you, or safe for you, bad for your team but safe for you, or bad for you and safe for your team, that's where you have a disconnect, and that's where you end up throwing matches. Captain America players, Hulk players, dive characters generally tend to do this a lot more often, where they dive even though their team isn't in a safe spot because there was no space given to them, and now you're just diving and your team is surrounded as they dive. And then when they come back or they get KO'd, they're like, what happened? They didn't pay attention to the fact that you need space given to your team for them to play in order for then you to be able to jump back in and do what you know what I mean? So in conclusion of that, you need to make sure that you maintain that space of your character, but also as you move forward and back, you need to understand that you're giving and taking away space for them. It's kind of like a safety monitor. Hey guys, don't push forward. You know, the people that are in the street that handle traffic. Forgot what they're actually called right now. So, but you know how they stop the traffic and then the people do the crosswalk, right? It's pretty much similar. As you move forward, you're telling them, hey guys, you guys can cross, but if some danger is coming, you got to back up, and it tells them, oh, okay, I got to back up too. That's pretty much how you go about it. All right, so we're going back to point, and remember what's getting us stuck right now is the fact that we are overextending and we're not understanding the space that our team can play in. We're also mismanaging our abilities, but those are kind of like the top 3 things that I've noticed. We know that our Luna Snow ulted here, so this means that she's creating the space for you. So instead of fighting in the Luna Snow ultimate, focus on what's in front of you and try to KO players. If you can KO players while Luna's ulting, then that means that it's going to be more in your favor. If you're focusing a lot on what's in Luna's ult, right, and you don't KO anybody, it's just a waste. You know what I'm trying to say? And you do have ult, but there's no reason to use it. Again, we're not really respecting their space. There you go. Was that a good use of it? No, we didn't really accomplish it. You know what I mean? So, mismanaging our abilities. In that situation, give up the space, walk back. Emma Frost ulted. There's not really much you can do to protect your team from that as this character. You could put up the curtain, but I mean, after that, nothing's gonna happen, right? Good cloak and dagger ult. That was really well played. Now imagine we have our Magneto ultimate right here. It will force Luna to go back into that tunnel, and that gives you guys enough space to be able to cap this section and move on. Because Luna Snow isn't aware that the heal doesn't go past the cart, you guys win this fight, but you guys shouldn't have won this fight. She just didn't understand. Maybe they're not a Loki player or a support player anyway in their field, and they didn't understand that Luna's ult doesn't work like that. You guys got lucky, and as I said before, you don't want to be in a position where you win because they are bad. You want to be in a position where you win because you made the correct decisions at any given time to help your team succeed. So you're trying to keep them in that sweet spot, which is good. Here, you don't need to sit on the cart too much. You can continue to move, but as you notice, Iron Fist is trying to stall it, so you are trying to focus him. You can take more space than this. Remember, you want to think about where your sweet spot is, and if you can move forward to put them in that sweet spot, you can give your team more space. Again, you can take more space than this. There you go. Hug that left wall there. You're good to go. You get pulled because we didn't hug the left wall. Now you are going to soak up resources from your healers because you're low, so they have to heal you and not heal anybody else on the team. You're trying to play cart when you could easily move up a little bit more. Magneto has ult. You could just shield your cloak and dagger. Luckily, she didn't get hurt though. Remember that sweet spot. That sweet spot. You're scared, but you have that sweet spot. If they are in that sweet spot, that's great. Continue to create space. If they approach you, that's when you need to back off. Again, we're focused on the wrong characters at the wrong time. The target priority is not there. We're assuming that anytime people get close to my team or in my backline, I have to focus them. That's not how you play tank. You want to think about what target priorities are the most important to deal with at that given time. So, talking about the target priority that I said before, you see how we're focusing on someone who A, you probably can't hit, and B, you're just giving up a whole bunch of space. Now you can say, well, Poppin, their Luna Snow is ulting too. That's true. But you could be breaking these Loki clones that he's putting down. You could shoot Loki should he get out of position, which he is right now. You could probably end up taking him out yourself. And that right there is what we call target priority. We're too focused on different people at different times, and we should be focused on what is going to help us win the match in this given situation. We know that the Luna Snow ult's going to run out, so maybe we can be in a position that's very advantageous for us to get the person that is out of position when they ult. Even right here, you know Thor's an off tank, right? Well, not even an off tank. I'm sorry, he's a tank. I don't really think there's any off tank in these game. This game, they can all pretty much tank pretty well. But you could be here. If Thor's on cart, you don't need two tanks on cart. Sit right here. Not only do you make it so that they're looking at your team and you, but you're also making it so that you have an easier angle on their backline. Target priority, positioning. These decisions that you make, that decision-making skill is what you need in order to hit things like Eternity or One Above All. You're not going to get there just by playing games. Obviously, I don't really know where your goal is, but you were saying that you were GM and you would like to hit Celestial. This will drastically improve your climb. Just being able to make those decisions at the right time. Right here, we decide to ult, which is fine, but I probably would have saved it because you weren't really in any danger. Again, these decisions are important. Now here, when we talked about the space, we see that Bucky is on point, right? This means that we can back up because one player is already on point. And you could be like, well, Poppin, if I do that and he gets KO'd, we lose. Well, you lose if you get KO'd, right? If we could just back up for a second, maybe that's enough to have your team, fight and win that match. Maybe it's not, but obviously you didn't really have much of a choice. It was a hard fight. Your team was KO'd, but maybe if you backed up just a little bit before he got KO'd and then you walked back in, you have your abilities up to last just a little bit longer. And that's just enough for your Cloak and Dagger to come sweep by and possibly heal you. And that's enough for Thor to be there. Because if you would have survived for like 2 more seconds, Thor was there. As you see, all these decisions, no matter how little, impact a match like crazy. However, you got to make sure you are thinking of it that way and you really do your best to apply that. If you personally struggle on spacing or you struggle on anything else pertaining to Marvel Rivals, check out that highlighted pinned comment down below to get your personal replay reviewed. Also, keep in mind, this player was a member. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. Members do get priority. They get to jump in front of the line of everybody else. So if you put your replay review and there's like 5 people in front of you, but they aren't members, your replay will get done before everyone else. So not only are you helping support the channel and you're allowing me to be able to do free reviews and free events and free coaching and stuff like that, but you also get priority in everything. So if you're interested in any of that, not only supporting the channel, but getting those goodies and getting that priority, check that join button down below or check the link down below if you do not see the join button. If you're someone who wants a more hands-on approach, a more one-on-one, ask me questions when they end up popping up because you're like, Poppin', I see what you're trying to say, but what you're saying, this is why I did that, and you want to give more context to what we're talking about, check out that coaching link down below and you can schedule a one-on-one session with me and we can get down to what's holding you back and start your climbing adventure. Also, for those of you popping off to Lofton fans that are still here, what did you guys think about the structure of this video? It's not sped through, there's not too many chop ups, and it's more of a pace through the match type of gameplay, and we pause when we talk about things. Is this better? Do you like the more speed run through? Like, what do you guys like if you've been watching my breakdowns pretty frequently? Please let me know in the comments down below. Your feedback is what helps shape my videos as they become better. So I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, you know what I always say. Thank you guys for doing what? Popping often. We'll often.